This week's show with Beth Hoffman and Rebecca Peterson of My Sister's Samplers is sponsored by Sassy Jack's Stitchery. The Nashville market has just concluded, and Kim Everett and the Sassy Jack's trailer have returned with all of the new charts that were offered at the show, including the line of reproduction samplers from My Sister's Samplers. Contact Kim right away and order your favorites. But don't just order the chart. Kim can help you put together full kits so you can start stitching the minute the mail arrives. Also, don't forget to check out the full collection of sassafras samplers at sassyjackstitchery.com, and while you're there, join the Cosmos Thread Club. It's a great way to build up a stash of beautiful cotton floss. If your significant other is wondering what to buy you for your birthday or your favorite holiday, they can't go wrong with a Sassy Jack's gift certificate. Make Sassy Jack Stitchery your local needlework store by visiting the website at sassyjackstitchery.com. Thanks to Sassy Jacks for sponsoring the show. And now on to our conversation with Beth Hoffman and Rebecca Peterson of My Sister's Samplers. Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Beth Ellicott.
And you are listening to Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for the needlework artists. Our artists this week, My Sister's Samplers is the company, and the sisters are Beth Hoffman. Hi, Beth. Welcome.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Beth.
And Rebecca Peterson. Rebecca, welcome.
Hi, Gary. Hi, Beth. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for doing this. All right. So we have, which one is in the Pacific Northwest? Is that Rebecca?
No, it's me, Beth.
Beth's in the Northwest.
Yep, Washington State.
All right. And Rebecca, you are?
I live in Texas.
In Texas. All right. Well, nothing personal, but I'm going with the Northwest. That's one of my favorite parts of the country.
It is beautiful out here. That is true.
It is indeed.
Yeah, expensive living, but man, is it beautiful. Yeah. All right. So My Sister's Samplers, fresh off your first Nashville show?
Yes.
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, boy. So
who knew, right?
So what was that madness like?
For me, it was really fun and really exciting to be surrounded by people who share this same passion that we do. It was a very new experience for me to be in an environment like that, and I really enjoyed it. But I will confess, at times it was overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And, I had the opportunity to go to market many years ago with a friend who was a designer, and I had a small daughter at the time, so I couldn't go. And maybe I should have, because I would have had a little bit more insight into it. But for us, it was like, okay, we don't know what to expect. This is all new to us. And so that was probably a good thing, that we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, right? So it was, yeah.
The blind.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, I think it went very well, and we had a great time, and we met a lot of great people. We knew a lot of people already, but we met a lot of great people otherwise. And so it was a great weekend. We had a really good time.
So I hope you went home without any charts and with a long list of things you want to do different next year.
Yeah, we still have some charts, but definitely we had our list of, things that we made note of. We definitely filled in many of the gaps of what I was calling our unknown unknowns. Mm-hmm. And so, we were already making a list of, these are the things that we need to do differently next year. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. And of course, we were already talking about, okay, what samplers do we want to do next, for release later this year, and then start to plan for market next year as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you from what I've learned is going home with some charts is really a win, because most people who do it the first time end up going home with a bunch of orders that they have to get printed and filled right away. So and that, so the madness just continues when you get home. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we didn't know how many to take. We didn't know how they were going to be received. So we took lots, right? So we made sure that we had plenty for the people that didn't know about us before market, and then decided, let's go see what they have. And then we wanted to make sure that we didn't have that problem, that they weren't waiting on us when we did get home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, good move, having enough. What was it, the last time I was there, one of the fabric dyeing people, she was sold out of everything Friday night. So
oh, my goodness.
The big day, Saturday, she had nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that spot. Yeah.
No, and it does sound like the fabric vendors have, they do sell out the fastest. So it doesn't seem like that's changed a whole lot.
No, I think shop owners just go in and just grab armfuls and
which is crazy. And for them they have it on hand, and
that's right.
The supply chain is so broken, to be able to take it home with them probably isn't a huge advantage. But
Yeah,
so were you pretty much busy the whole time, or were you able to go and see some other rooms? Did you take help? Was it just the two of you? Those are my questions.
Yeah, it was just the two of us. But I think the traffic was generally pretty steady. We also benefited. We shared a room with Gloriana Threads. And so we benefited from the traffic. There was a lot of interest in Gloriana and seeing what she had available. So we benefited from some of that traffic. But during the slower periods, certainly over lunch, when everybody is having lunch, it got pretty quiet. Then each of us were able to take a turn to go out and explore, and look at other rooms and see what the other designers had, and also add to our list of things I didn't know I needed, but now I must have because I saw it.
Yeah, that problem. Yeah.
And being a vendor versus being a shop owner, we have the easy job. I can't imagine being a shop owner and having to hit that many suites or booths in 3 days.
Yeah.
Friday used to be optional, and now it's just one of the market days. And that was actually our busiest day, which I was kind of surprised about. But I can't imagine being a shop owner, because the amount of legwork that they have to do. And I think this year was a record number of vendors. So I just can't even imagine being one of them. I thought we had the easy job.
I agree. How they choose as to what they're going to take home, I think is a very huge task.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then they got to get it all home. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
we were happy to consolidate our bins. I can't imagine trying to ship all the stuff and get all the stuff home that they had to take.
Yeah. But I read somewhere one of them actually went to the store and bought another suitcase. Didn't have enough.
Yep. We talked to a shop that they were renting a U-Haul. To take back. And
they didn't bring one, but they took one back.
Back.
Yep. Yeah, well, Kim at Sassy Jack Stitchery, I mean, they have a trailer. I mean, they just take they just got a trailer, put their logo on it. And,
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah. Might as well. Why fight it? Yeah.
And we forgot to mention. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Rebecca.
I was going to say, we sent some charts back in that trailer, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. So.
And it was after we saw her and Kathy that we thought, we should have mentioned to them that we were going to be talking to you. And we didn't even think about it. So, we saw both of them, and were, they took some of our charts home of ours, and we were very thankful for that. So it worked out well.
So there you go, folks. Get the My Sister's Samplers charts. Kim and Kathy have them.
Yeah, that's right. They both do.
In stock.
Nice.
Yep. All right, so how did this My Sister's Samplers get started? So, Beth, you're the veteran stitcher on this thing, but how did this all come to pass?
Well, my sister likes to talk me into stuff, so...
That's a true statement.
So it's Beth's fault.
It's Becky's fault. It's Rebecca's fault. That's right. But I've been a sampler lover since probably the early 90s. I was living in Arizona, and I had just graduated from college, and I'd been a stitcher since we were young girls. And I discovered the attic, of course, in Arizona. And that would have been 91. So I was fresh out of college. I had recently gotten married, and stitching was my next thing to get back to. So I discovered the attic, and they were having, and a different person had owned it than Jean now, but Jean was affiliated with the shop still. And they were having Darlene Osteen come in like 6 months or something to do a class. And so they were offering learn the stitches, learn specialty stitches. So they were just going to have a little workshop, on a Saturday afternoon. So I'm like, okay, I think this is what I want to do. So I signed up for it and learned all the Darlene Osteen specialty stitches that she used, which are just your standard sampler stitches, but I didn't know that at the time. And took this class and decided it was something I loved. And so then Darlene came to town, and I took her workshop and her class. And then that's how it all began. And then we lived in Arizona we moved from Arizona in 95, I think it was. So I was an attic shopper up until that point. And then shortly we were living in Mesa at the time. And
that's dangerous. That's expensive.
It is.
What that is.
It is.
Yeah, that would be very dangerous.
It was. So the shop where it was when we were there was, I think, 2 or 3 shops ago from where it is now. Mm-hmm. But once we moved away, they moved to the location prior to where they are now, which was like 1.5 miles from my house. So it was a really good thing we probably moved by that point. But
that's the worst. It's walking distance. That's like
yes, that's right. But I attribute the attic and Jean and everything for my love of samplers. And in 92, Jean and I and 2 of our needlework friends, we went and took the Darlene Osteen class, Dorcas Haynes, at the Christmas in Williamsburg event that they had out there. And so we were, we had the best time, and it's just been since then, for me, it's all about samplers. I love them. And, at the time, I'm like, oh, I'm going to stitch reproductions because I'm not sure that I can ever afford one. So I'm just going to stitch them. Right. And so I wanted the reproductions that were authentic and I could see the back, because I do like to stitch reversible. So I like the back to look like the front. And so it was just something that just grew from my time of being in Arizona. And then we moved to Texas. And now we're in Washington, and it's just, and my collection has grown. So now I can actually buy some samplers. And it's just something that, then I got Rebecca involved because I'm like, this is something you need. She never understood in the beginning. It's just, why? Why do I need this? But here we are. And she and I think she sent you a picture of the very first class we took together. I was probably 4th or 5th grade because I remember being in 4-H and I entered that project in the fair when it was finished. But this was just a shop that was in our little hometown that was offering this class. And that one is stamped, so it was like learning the stitches. And at the time, our grandmother had come to visit and was teaching me how to do tablecloths and pillowcases. I did a lot of pillowcases and dish towels and just doing embroidery. And then we took this, we figured out our little town in Montana, decided, had this little cross stitch store. So we took this class from the cross stitch store and then, for a while, I didn't do a lot of cross stitch. I did some towards my time, when I was finishing college. And I think that's probably my still longest UFO I have out there. But yeah, it's just kind of just been something that I've done, for close to 50 years. And then samplers has been probably the last 30 years or so, 35 years. So.
So, Rebecca, did you stitch too at this time, just not samplers?
Yes. And so for sure, we always were stitching on something, and even I still have some of those old pieces. In fact, I have some of the pieces that Beth was the one who first started with the counted cross stitch. We had primarily been doing stamped things, as she mentioned, and embroidered thing, kind of surface embroidery kind of things. And so she started with the counted cross stitch. And I remember looking at that and seeing the chart with all of the symbols and translating that onto the fabric and thinking, I'm not so sure. But we were doing that, and I, like I said, I still have some of the early pieces that we did on Aida cloth.
Right, that's right.
But then it was really Beth and her relationship with the attic that got us, so of course Beth was faster in making the transition to stitching on linen, and then some of the more advanced types of work. It did take me a lot longer to start doing samplers, but I still was doing different types of stitching and different pictures and things like that. But not definitely not the strong interest in samplers like I have now. And I will say of the two of us, Beth is only 50% of us stitch reversible, right? That is not something that I can do. I have tried it, and it just takes so much concentration and so much focus, and that's not really why I stitch. So I usually try to stitch as a break from, kind of technical topics and thinking about technical things, and I don't want my stitching to turn into that too.
Yeah, tried one reversible, and it just sucked the fun right out of it. Yeah,
I agree with you, Gary. That's where I am too. But hey, kudos to those like Beth who can do it. I mean, they're absolutely fabulous. It's just it's too much work for me, to be honest.
Yeah, Kim, I think. Well, I'm sure when Kim gets her shop open, Sassy Jack Stitchery, she has one where she has it framed, so you can see both sides, and it's just amazing.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah, but no.
Yeah. Beth has that for your Laura Standish, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you did Laura Standish reversible.
I did.
I just had I have a friend working on that now, and I'm like, are you doing it reversible? And she said, no. Well, okay, I just wanted to see.
And that's one that I actually started over because, again, I originally started in the early 90s. It was a stitch along that we were going to do at the attic. And I can't remember if it was just pick a piece from Scarlet Letter or if it was that piece. I think it was that piece. So I just used what was in the kit, and I started, and I was maybe 2 or 3 bands in, and I decided I don't like this. So I changed the fabric, and I changed the threads, and I restarted it. But I mean, there was many year gap in between that. So I think I started it in 91 and I finished it in the 2000s.
So that makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. So
I have at least a few of those. That
yes.
We won't discuss that though.
At least a few. Let me write that down. At least a few.
That's right.
I didn't want to say how many.
No, never admit that.
Of course not. No, right, absolutely not.
Who bought the first original sampler?
Oh, probably me.
Oh, Beth, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, for me, I was never really looking for the perfect because at the time, I was like, well, I probably can't afford the perfect, right? So I was always finding things that nobody else wanted. And to me, those are the treasures, right? Anybody can own a perfect one, but, for those to be discarded because it has a hole or, something, it was like, okay, these are what I want to bring attention to, is these ones that will never, or are less, I don't want to say never, but are less likely to get the attention that they maybe rightfully deserve. So, and then the other thing that I like are anything with genealogy on them. I love genealogy. And a lot of the family samplers, a lot of people don't have a lot of interest in because there's no motifs or there's, nothing really interesting. But for me, I find the value and being able to track these young girls and their families. And, for example, I have one that's got a baby's name on it that she was born and died the same day. And, most genealogy sites are never going to know that this little girl existed except from this piece of needlework. So to me, those are the treasures. And you can honor these girls by, bringing forth these, less than ideal or favorable or whatever samplers. So that's what I like about them.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a decision. Anybody who starts reproducing samplers, that's a decision is
That's right.
The ones that have holes in them and missing stitches and so on
right.
and so forth.
Right.
Yeah. Do you find those to be an interesting, fun challenge, or?
I do, because I like to be able to determine, okay, if the verse is missing or part of the verse is missing, can I figure out what it said? Can I, find an old verse, that it was, if it was a Bible verse, can I translate it or figure it out? Or can I look on the fabric to see where the stitches used to be, so the holes are a little bigger, so that I can, possibly see what letters were there. To me, that's kind of the fun of it too, is unraveling the little mystery of what's missing. And one of the charts that we stitched is my, which one is it? Sarah Ann Richardson? No, that's not it.
Sarah Ann Beecham with the wonky group?
Hutchins. No, Hutchins.
Oh, Mary Ann Hutchins.
So that one, I like to chart from the back because I like to have the colors and stuff as they appeared. I want these girls to reflect, all the bright colors in their crayon box, like our little girls today do. They like the bright colors and stuff. So that's what I want to present. I want to present the bright colors. But my Sarah Ann Hutchins, she came to me with the thread matching the front, basically. I mean, it was all monochrome. It was just ivory on ivory, except where somebody had taken markers and colored in the letters.
No.
Yeah, so they had colored the threads on the, and so I got it for a great deal because nobody wants a sampler that it's been colored on with marker. So, at that point I was like, okay, I can make this whatever color I want. And so, it became red, and then we did a little baby blue one. So we have big red and baby blue. And, so I took liberty with that because at that point, I'm not going to reproduce it with magic marker. But yeah, I soaked it for like 3 days. I'm like, I can't do any harm to it if I soak it for 3 days. I got the majority of the marker out. And, we have 2 samplers from it now. So, you can make anything out of anything practically, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
If there's holes, what do you do with that? Do you, again, just try to figure out what's there and put it in, or?
So far, we haven't, at least that I know of, we haven't had any major holes in spots where we've had to figure out, okay, because a lot of times, if they cut out their age, does that mean they also cut out the thread? Because that's where we tend to see a lot of the holes is, okay, they didn't want to broadcast how old they are when they stitched this later on. So not only did they cut out the stitches, but there's a hole there now too. So as far as that goes, we can guess if we know the genealogy. Otherwise, we'll probably just leave it.
Yeah, and sometimes too, if you have a sampler, of course the alphabet is easy. If you have stitch loss or you have a hole in the alphabet, you can gauge. Or I prefer samplers that are symmetrical. And so if I see it on one side and the motif is lost on, or a portion of a motif is lost on the other side, I still know what it originally looked like and can chart it that way.
And that's how we differ in our samplers, because she has to be the, the symmetrical, even on all
symmetry.
Sides. To me, I don't care. To me, it's a piece of artwork, and it's it's something that a young girl did, and I don't care what it looks like. She's a little bit more picky about that.
So do you all chart the colors from the front or the back? Well, obviously not the one with the magic marker, but
right. Yeah. Well, it depends on if it's accessible from the back. If it's framed and it's and it's been preserved, and we're probably not going to take it apart. And so Rebecca can speak to this too, because she's actually having some stitch that are from the front, and then she's taken, she's picked the colors that way.
Yes. Yeah. And so generally my preference is to chart from the back, going back to what Beth said. Lots of times the front, the colors from the front can be pretty faded and washed out, and the backs, I like Beth. I like for the sampler to reflect what that young girl was looking at when she stitched it. And yeah, she's going to pick the most colorful and brightest threads out of her basket and put it in her sampler. I mean, that's what I would have done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
That's right. Exactly.
And so we do try to do that where we can. We do have a sampler that's being stitched now that I felt like it's pretty well framed, and I thought I would damage it by trying to get it out of the frame. So I did chart it from the front. Fortunately, the colors on the front are still quite bright and true, and so that one I think that it was easier than most. But it is amazing, because you can look at a piece and you can say, especially with some of the wool ones, the wool holds it, the wool thread holds its color so much better. And you can look at it on the front and say, wow, that's pretty, that the colors are good. And that looks really nice. And then you flip it over to the back and the colors are just so vibrant and so beautiful. That even when one you can say, oh well, from the front it looks pretty good, the back is often just tremendous in the color, and then you do have to start to use a little bit of judgment of, okay, maybe some of these are just a little bit too bright. Because you still, to me, it's going back to the symmetry thing too. You still want the color scheme to balance and to work well together.
Yeah, that's what I struggle with. So many of them, people try to make them look old and worn and grungy, and for me, that's where I'm at. Is why can't we have it the way it was when it was fresh? And
that's right.
Yeah, that's my preference. Because and we talked a lot about also, we certainly with these samplers that we produced for our market debut, a lot of that we stitched from stash. Mm-hmm. And so the fabrics that we used were fabrics that we had. And, for anybody who's stitching our samplers or I think any samplers in general, I would strongly encourage them to stitch from stash if you have it, or use a piece of fabric that you love. We chose fabrics that we felt were consistent with the original piece, but I got to tell you, most of mine are absolutely filthy. So, right, how do you know what the original fabric was? And so then it really does come down to stitch what you like, and it'll look amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do we know? I don't know if I've ever asked this. Do we know, was linen just generally white or off-white back in those days? I don't know. Beth, have you ever heard, Beth? I mean, I don't know.
Well, they used to have the, what was the one where it was green one direction and white, or what was that called? Anyway, I don't know the answer to that question.
No, neither do I. My assumption would be that it would be mostly the case, but I mean, I have some that are stitched on fabric that looks and feels a lot more like burlap than linen, or some pretty coarse cloth as well.
I'm guessing that they weren't bleaching it, so I would imagine that it was just the natural fiber color.
Yeah.
Right. But other than that, I don't know that they had a lot of white. I would guess that it would have been off-white or whatever the flax color was. And then you'll see the samplers. It was mostly stitched selvage to selvage, whether or not it was on the sides or top to bottom. So to me, that fascinates me. How did they figure out? Did they count it first to make sure that it was going to fit, or did they design as they went? That's one of the things that I've always been, interested in, is how did they get the final product knowing that they were using the full selvage to selvage size? So that's always been something that fascinates me.
Yeah, they didn't waste anything, did they? No.
No, nothing. And was it
Yeah.
the teacher that planned it out, or did they? I don't know. They are so organized in their layouts. Sometimes I just don't know how they made it work.
Yeah, I always get a kick out of they get to the edge and they got two more letters in the word, just cram it in
that's
somehow.
Me too. Those are some of my favorites as well, Gary, is the, okay, I'm making it work because I'm not picking that whole row out, right? So
Right.
this is happening.
Right. I mean, you think about it, little girls who were 7 and 8, they're,
Right.
how much planning
That's right.
were they really going to do?
Yeah, so it is amazing how how well laid out a lot of the pieces are. And yeah, it is, when you think about it, that in and of itself is a bit of, is an educational process for being able to lay out the alphabets and the letters. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't go quite as planned.
Yeah, I'm just amazed that girls that age, I mean, kids, boy or girl at that age, would do these things that we spend
Right.
hours and hours on. I'd have that thing thrown in the corner. I'm out of here.
Well, and I look at the one that we took our little class on. So I'm oldest, and I would have been 4th or 5th grade, right, when I took this class that we did this stamped. And so that meant Rebecca would have been 1st grade, maybe.
I think I was about 6.
Yeah. So, some of our samplers are, 7-year-olds. I can't imagine what that feels like.
Yeah.
Right. I just can't imagine, because we struggled when I was 10 trying to do the stamped part. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was stamped.
Yeah.
it was stamped.
Yeah, and you think about all those over one. We have a bunch of them, with all the words over one, and it's like, so and so age 7. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because for the record, I never finished that stamped piece from way back when. Who knows where? I think it's somewhere in my mom's house, but. So the idea that little girls could have that level of persistence and almost tenacity to finish those very complicated pieces is very impressive.
Yeah, it really is. So what was the moment where you guys decided we got to make a business out of this? We can start to do these things.
So I'll tell that story.
Okay.
So Beth mentioned when you had alluded to that question earlier, and she said her sister talks her into stuff, which is true. So I had at Beth's, I was looking at some of her antique samplers, and I was looking particularly for motifs, and I mean got well down into them, and started to think, wow, I really need to start looking to see, if I can start adding some samplers to my collection. And so I went on eBay just to see what was available, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I was finding. And so I put in some bids on some samplers, and then I left on a business trip. And while I was gone, some of the auctions ended, and I won one that I just absolutely loved. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about what an amazing sampler it was, and all the different aspects of the design. And I was laying in bed staring at the ceiling in Singapore with jet lag, and thought, man, we need to start reproducing these. This is something we need to do. And so when I got home from my trip, I called Beth, and Beth was very, very busy raising her daughter. But I was like, hey, I think we need to do this. And she was, I don't know if she was super keen on the idea, but I was not going to drop it. So
little sisters, sisters, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and I can remember that was maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
It was in 2018.
18. Okay.
Yeah. Because I remember that trip, and so in my defense, if there is one, so Beth, like I said, Beth had been really busy raising her daughter, and her daughter at that time was getting into that junior high school years, but she wasn't, and so a lot of Beth was having to spend quite a lot of time back and shuttling her back and forth to the school bus, to school, to after school activities and so on. And when I had my great idea, her daughter was getting pretty close to getting her driver's license. And I thought, well, Beth is going to need something to do to fill up all that time that she used to spend driving her daughter around.
Like I needed a job, is what she said.
I might have said that. Yes.
She needs something to do, and I'm here to give it to her.
That's right.
Right. That's right. You know what? I was helping.
Yes, right. We should do this, but you need to do this. That's what I think came out of her mouth.
That's possible.
So who does the charting? Do you trade off, or how does that work?
Yeah, we both do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll do we'll do our own samplers, or I think the first one we started last year, Rebecca had been to my house for Christmas, and she had brought some of her samplers, and she says, I think these were her exact words, I think you need to chart this. Wow. So I did. I charted it, and then I stitched it, and that was Charlotte Webster, and I think that's pretty much what kind of started it all off for us last year. Yeah, and then we just decided, okay, we have, so that's her sampler, and I charted it and stitched it. But then, we've just kind of, I like this one, I'll chart it and stitch it, and so we just kind of do our own here and there.
Yeah. That was Sarah Ann Beecham.
Oh, Sarah Ann Beecham. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I had looked at it.
I can't even keep them straight.
But and then the other one is that was mine, but Beth charted and stitched, is Dorothy Leeds, which was our Market exclusive. And Beth wanted us to do a sampler for Market that we could feature the new color she was developing with Anne for Gloriana. And so she asked me, she said, hey, do you have a sampler that you think would work with this color? And I said, I know exactly the sampler. And so this was at Christmas time, so I only had a photo in my phone to show her, and we agreed that was the one. And in fact, didn't you chart that just from photos, right? You didn't.
I did.
Of course, you didn't have the actual sampler with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I sent you the charts, saying, okay, look it over, make sure I got
that's right,
everything on there and stuff.
Yeah, well, and that's an extra dimension that you guys have, is that Beth works for Gloriana. So
yeah.
Oh
no, it's all good. It's all good.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I've only been working for Anne since the end of July or so. So it's been a great partnership for us, and it's worked out really well. So and then the booth worked out great for us at Market. So I think that's going to be how we continue in the future. And yeah, it's worked out really well. Mm-hmm.
So as you're charting these things, is that what's in front of you, is Gloriana Silks, or are you? Well, you got to do DMC. You don't have a choice.
Oh, yeah. We always chart with DMC, and then, because that's what is readily available in all the colors. So I always chart with DMC, and then I go from there, whether we're using hand-dyed fibers or Gloriana or something like that, because we want everybody to be able to, again, stitch from your stash. And one of the things we learned at Market at the very first day with the vendor meeting we had is that, people like to stitch with what's recommended on the chart. And we're like, okay. Because here we are stitching from our stash, right? So that was one of the big lessons we learned. So now we have to kind of take that into account. But, for us, there's no stitching police. We don't care what you use. We don't care, if you're putting it on Aida, if you're putting it on 56 count. We want it to be enjoyable for you. We're not saying you have to do it this way or that way. So Stitch what you want. And we want to make it easy for people. So that's why we chart with DMC. And then as far as I chart from DMC and then it goes from there.
Yes, me too. I chart in DMC, and then we had several of our market releases. We actually charted and stitched the models in the hand-dyed fibers, and really for a couple of reasons. First, those silks are really nice. If you haven't tried them, I highly recommend them.
I have to say, you guys did a nasty thing because I'd never heard of hand-dyed fibers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Beth
you
Ellicott,
hadn't, Gary.
Have you heard of them, Beth?
Yes, I have. I have some in my stash. I've stitched needlepoint with them, actually, when she had
nice.
the needlepoint line. She doesn't carry that anymore.
No,
but
the premium line. That's right.
But those are beautiful silks.
Yeah. And they're, in the past, people was like, well, we can't get them from our shop and that kind of stuff. Well, that's been a little bit of a misnomer because she will sell wholesale to shops, or you can buy directly from her website. And before I started working for Gloriana, that was really all I enjoyed stitching with. When I first started stitching samplers and doing Darlene's classes, she generally always used the Avera Soie, Soie d'Alger and stuff. So I have a lot of that. And then I went and did a lot of needlepoint silk because I always liked that as well. And each line is different. And, with hand-dyed fibers, back in 2007, that time frame, that's when I really fell in love with them. And you could buy, like Beth was saying, you could get the premiums, but then you could also get the thinner thread. And she used to sell it as a single strand, and that's what I love. I love just being able to pull it off the roll and stitch with it. There was no separating and anything like that. Now she spins it, or she twists it together, so it's six strand, just like a skein of DMC. But yeah, it's different. They're all different. And I love Gloriana, but then I also love HDF. To me, it's like, don't make me choose what child I like best, right?
Right.
So again, you do what you like with it. So, but yeah, you can't go wrong with either one.
I got to get me some of this hand-dyed fiber stuff. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. And it comes on these convenient little spools. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I've been to the site. I know.
Well, and then and storage isn't hard because you buy those little cases that photos come in
That's
for
right.
photo at Michael's or Joann's or something.
Yeah.
And then you can put your whole project in those little boxes, and there
That's
you
right.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, Gary, you got to get yourself something.
Yeah. Down that rabbit trail, Gary.
Every show costs me money. Every show.
It's like we join the addiction.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So now you'll see me, because of my relationship with Gloriana, you'll see me stitching a lot more probably with Gloriana, just because it is so great, and I think it's some of the best out there. But
Yes.
HDF is out there as well.
Yep.
And as far as Avera Soie and needlepoint silk, just use what you like.
Right. And you mix them, right? So if you had a hand HDF or needlepoint that worked together, you just throw them in the mix together. Yeah, I think sometimes people are afraid to do that, and you won't be able to tell.
Right.
Choose the colors you need and just go for it.
Right, and because each line is different, you might need something that's over one, so you might change, depending something that's a little thinner, or you might need to do sheep, so you might need something that's a little fuzzier, but it can all coexist on the same sampler.
Right.
These little girls, they were using wool and silk together. You'll see some really chunky, animals or baskets or something, but then you'll also see some fine detailed people. And they were using two different fibers on their samplers as well. So I think, like I said, there are no stitching police here, so you can use what you want.
Yep. So, all right, where are we at with My Sister's samplers? We had the Nashville ones now. Do you have some more lined up that you're going to be introducing in the coming months? What's kind of your plan so that we can, set our money aside?
Yeah, we have a couple more in the hopper. We have two being stitched right now. that we plan to release probably around August. Maybe, we were talking about the virtual Needlework Expo in August might be a good opportunity to do that. One of those is a Christmas sampler, which I think is really fun. Where it's not that it was stitched on December 25th or anything, but it was clearly intended with a Christmas theme in mind. And so we'll have that ready for this summer. And then another, I think, traditional motif sampler that is charted and is being stitched in Gloriana. So we're really looking forward to that. And then we're probably, I think we'll try to do at least one more for the summer, maybe two. And then we'll be probably looking to do our next batch of releases at market. So, it's really the question of, how fast can you get them stitched is probably our rate limiting step.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to start thinking about Nashville already. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about it in the car on the way home.
Mm-hmm. So do you all stitch your own then, or do you have some model stitchers?
Yes and yes. So we have predominantly stitched our own. I have recruited some of our friends to stitch the models for us. That right now, the two big samplers that are in the hopper for this summer, our friends are stitching them for us. And then hopefully Beth and I will get started on our next reproductions here. Once we, I don't know, I can't speak for Beth, but I've been I'm utterly worn out from market mode and haven't quite gotten back to it yet, but we definitely have some ideas in mind. It was really fun to be in the room with Gloriana because just seeing all of her, she had a large portion of her Pashmina line, which is cashmere plus silk thread. And it was easy to be inspired by that with all of the beautiful colors she had there. And so I was telling Beth, I'm like, okay, my next one is going to feature that thread.
Yeah. That'll be beautiful.
Yeah, and all the samplers that we took to market, we stitched ourselves. We didn't do any. Yeah. We didn't have any model stitchers for any of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was a reason why we had 6 samplers and Beth stitched 4 and I stitched 2. That's a good indicator of our abilities.
And we didn't start talking about this market until June or July last year. Because we were at a stitching retreat with our friends in Texas. We do a small get together every year. And we were talking about it then. We're like, well, can we do this? Can we really pull this off? And so, yeah. So we didn't even have as much time for, this current market as we now have. So hopefully we can be a little bit more productive even now.
Nah, wait till the last minute,
Yeah.
So are you going to reproduce in these samplers that have more what people traditionally call the specialty stitches? Or are you mainly going to stick with cross stitch, Algerian eye?
I think to me, I love the specialty stitches. And so we have a couple that we're looking at that would be, kind of more of those Florentine stitch, rice stitches, some of the more complicated ones.
Do them.
Quick. Okay.
Yeah. I'll Queen change the order of my pile, Gary. And Queen Stitch is for sure one that we both love.
When we look at these stuff, we have to think about, okay, will anybody stitch this?
Right.
Yeah. It's just like, so we have to weigh, okay, we love it and whatnot, but is there too many over one words? Is there, too many complicated stitches? So we kind of weigh that and go back and forth and say, okay, we don't mind if people buy it and then never stitch it, but will they buy it to possibly stitch, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, like, I'm the president of my local guild, and we're trying to teach our members, like, okay, these stitches aren't as hard as you think.
That's right.
Let's just do them one at a time, and let's work our way through them. You have questions, come to us. There's people who are truly experts in my guild at different stitches. And so to me, some of those samplers would be nice, especially if they're band. And I know I did one with a different guild where, we would get together and we'd do a band together.
Yeah, I love band samplers.
Me too.
And especially for that reason, because if you're just stitching a band, it doesn't feel quite as insurmountable, right? You see the end from the beginning. So it's like, okay, I can get through this. It doesn't feel like, a task that you just will never be able to get to. And so, band samplers are by far my favorite type of sampler to stitch. And Beth had to remind me early on, hey, you can't do only band samplers. Not everybody likes them like you do. It's like, okay.
I love them, but yes. Yeah, one of my second longest UFO is probably a band sampler that I have charted, or it's that I've stitched. And I'm almost finished with it, but I'm so mad at it that I just have to get over it and just finish it.
Yes, we have discussed this, that it's time it's time to move on and just finish it.
Yes. Oh, I have one of those. Yes.
Just one. Yeah.
Actually, there is just one.
Yeah. Sure. Right. Right.
When we were at market, Anne Fraser had mentioned that she was talking to someone and they referred to their collection of whips as their archive, which I thought was so perfect. Right? It's like, that's in my archive.
I like that.
That sounds a lot better than in my whip pile.
Or my UFO pile. Yeah.
Or UFO pile, yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm going with that, archive.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That sounds very educated and sophisticated. And,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
But that is a business reality. Is that the vast majority of people just want to make X's, don't make me backstitch, and give me the DMC colors, and I'll execute it. And that's just a business reality. So you have to make those decisions, and because a lot of people you do anything other than a cross stitch, and that's their it's what they enjoy. They run for the hills. They don't want to do it, and over two, not over one, and yeah.
But I think also if we can help even with our designs, like we have, if you look at some of the designs we had at market, like Sarah Ann Beecham is a great example of where it's predominantly cross stitch, and then it's got a row of satin stitches thrown in and a row of herringbone stitch, and so it's 98% cross stitch. And then if somebody wants to try to tackle those specialty rows in there, then again, it's not the entire sampler. And if they wanted to replace those with cross stitches, they could, but it's a great opportunity to try it.
Yeah, branch out a little bit, just a little bit. It'll be
just
okay.
try it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to commit to an entire sampler of specialty stitches right away. But I think if people are like me, once they try it, they're like, ooh, that was easier than I expected, and maybe I can try something else. Again, still not going reversible for me, but I can try some of those other types of stitches.
Yeah, that's the different level there. Reversible, no. Hats off to you, but no.
Yes, exactly.
To me, it just adds, that's kind of just what makes it fun for me. It adds a little bit of challenge, and it just, I don't know. It's just, I like it. Each their own.
Applause to you.
I
love looking at it when you're done. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and I have one piece that it's dated 2000. And we were living in Arizona at the time. And so I stitched it, and I stitched it reversible. And I took it to my framer. And I get it back, and I see 0005. And I said, there's a bit of a problem here. So not realizing and not paying attention to the date at the bottom, because the date, it was, and then, the date was fairly good size, but she didn't realize that was the back. when she framed it. So she had to unframe it and frame it right side out. But it's a nice conversation pice.
Yeah, but success. She couldn't tell. Yeah. So
that's a compliment.
Yep. Bravo.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Congratulations on your first Nashville effort, and
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you got a great collection to start right out here, and then looking forward to more. Bravo all the way around, and we've established that a bunch of them went home in the Sassy Jack Stitchery trailers.
Yeah, so, that's right.
There you go, folks, right there.
Exactly. Yeah. And the shop owners, they couldn't have been nicer to us. We were very thankful to everybody that stopped to say hi, and those that we didn't know that now became friends. And it was just, the shop owners couldn't have been nicer to us. So that was very appreciative of that.
Yep. All right. Before we wrap up, Beth needs to know the half marathon.
Yes. Who instigated that? Only
so
one?
That's something I talked my sister into doing.
Yes, that is correct.
So I have a couple of friends here who we met when our kids were in school together in elementary school. And so they talked me into doing a half marathon with them at Disneyland for the Tinkerbell half marathon that they were doing. And I think it was 2014 or something.
They're 2012, 2013
maybe. So I said, because that is not my thing. And so I said, if I have to do it, you have to do it.
It's not my thing either.
So the four of us, we took our families, and the four of us went and did the half marathon, the Tinkerbell half marathon at Disneyland that year.
Yeah.
Never again.
We checked that box. We're good.
We got our medal.
The
bus didn't have to pick us up because we were too slow.
And that was our whole thing.
It's a win-win then. That's because you want the medal and you don't want the bus to be. You don't want to be on that paddy wagon bus. Yep.
Right.
Because
they do it before the park opens, so you have to be finished before the park opens.
Oh, it's one of those. Okay.
It is, and the majority of it, at least when you're doing the half marathon, it's outside the park. You start in the park, it's outside the park, and then you come back into the park. So you have to be done.
Right.
And so that was our motivation. We did not want to be picked up by the bus.
Yeah. So see, it's not just me talking her into things. That was all her.
So sisters are four, let me tell you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. So so that's our half marathon story.
Right. And you're clearly agreed never again. So, okay.
Yep,
never again.
We're good in that respect.
Those same friends said, okay, how about we do it next year, but we'll do the 5K. And, but by the time we went to sign up, it was full, and I'm like, phew, no 5K now.
That is one way to get out of those things, is just drag your feet a little bit.
Yeah, stall.
That's right, exactly. Stall.
Oh, I would have done it. I was fired up to do it. Yeah,
exactly. I think the half marathon probably still had openings, but not the 5K. I'm like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, too bad.
Too bad. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, ladies, thanks so much, and thanks to everyone for listening.
Thanks so much, Gary and Beth.
Thanks for having us.
It was a pleasure.
Bye.